The house was built in 1909, finished in 10, and then they moved in 10. Paul Donegan is my great-granduncle, and he was a physician and practiced medicine right there in the clinic. He built the house this way because the streets were dirt and he didn't want his wife breathing dust. And so they lived upstairs. They practiced medicine here. This area here was open, and the horse and buggy were kept there, and later when he got an automobile, kept his automobile down there. When Dr. Donegan first died, and then his wife Rebecca died 25 years later. She left the house to her niece and her husband, and then they moved in. That's Ms. Zyman, Mr. and Mrs. Zyman, and they lived here until he died, and then she died in 72. Waller County purchased the building and made it the museum in 78. After the floods of the hurricanes and stuff, the downstairs flooded, and Waller County decided not to continue to repair. And an old house like this, it is a money pit. It's always something. So the city of Brookshire has purchased the building, and they are lovingly restoring. And it'll have to be incremental. There's a lot of structural stuff downstairs that needs to happen. But right now it's just being beautified because it was horribly ugly. Anyway, let's go.
Let's go and see inside. Yeah.
This was the kitchen.
No, you feel the years and the history.
Yeah. This was the bathroom. Mrs. Zyman, who, the niece, who lived here until 72, she was a musician, organist, pianist, and she would play the city put speakers outside, and during Christmas, that's what's really remembered about this house, is that she played the organ and it could be heard
everywhere.
Oh. Brookshire was a happening place. There were back in the late 1800s, there were 31 grocery stores, and then many hardware stores, different kinds of shops, and weekends nobody went to bed, because that's when people came from out in the country when cotton was king and did their shopping for the week. And so the shopkeepers on weekends would stay open basically, I think, till midnight. They cut it off at midnight. But not one of the Armenian shopkeepers would leave. They would not be the first to call it a night. Because Brookshire's merchants were all Armenians. The way the Armenians did, it was chain migration. You had the first group, and then they wrote back, come. And so more came, and they would stay here for a while, make some money, learn English, and Rebecca Donegan taught English to the new arrivals. Yeah. They would get acclimated, and then they would go all over. They went to Fresno, they went to Glendale, they went to Watertown. Yeah, they just fanned out. Oh. And not having the 1890 census, which would have been the heyday, it would have been when everybody was here getting acclimated before they headed out.
So here on the right we had a few of the many stores that belong to Armenian families, like you can see here, Hayrabedian. These are also Armenian families, Zahimen and Harrison.
The last residents of the home, the Donegian home, the Zymans, are right here. Dr. Donegan and his wife Rebecca are here. She was a genocide survivor, Nabart was. So she came over as a picture bride and married Yorgos. And then first her mother came, her mother was a sister of Rebecca. And then he came. He was detained actually at Ellis Island. They weren't going to let him in. And I don't know who pulled strings, but they finally released him and let him come on to Brookshire. And the Baronian family. The purpose of these homecoming events is to help maintain the Armenian identity in the descendants who might be an 8th or a 16th Armenian that still feel Armenian because of the way we were raised. And so it's a time to join with other Armenians who might be full-blooded to help us maintain that identity.